Okie dokie, and we meet once again. This is video number 2 of our Move Advanced Smart Contract Language tutorial. In this video tutorial, we are going to take a look at reference types in Move. Immutable and mutable. Simple. Let's not waste any more time and let's move. When we work with references, we have to understand that we are either defining a variable reference to be mutable or immutable. If I want to make a change to a variable, and this will be the value that is stored inside that variable, I have to define this to be mutable. And if I want to protect the value from being updated or mutated, I have to define this to be immutable. This is a very short demo. I'm gonna make a file. Let's call this reference demo move, okay? And we begin. Okay, now module, net to def, ADDR, and let's call this reference demo. I am going to use print because we want to take a look at the outputs once we do a test function to validate our references. Debug and print. Awesome. When we talk about reference types, we are defining immutable and mutable. Mutable, I mentioned, can't change value. Mutable can change value. So let's do a function. The first function, what it's going to do is going to change a non-reference type to a mutable type. Let's take a look at that. Function, and I'm going to call this scenario 1. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to declare a variable, let value a, and let's say that this will be an integer. Okay, so this will be integer 10. And let's convert this first to immutable. So we can say here, let, call this immutable ref, and this will be a U64, okay? And I want this to be reference U64 immutable, and I want to say this is value a, okay? So we are passing reference of value a, right? So we are adding integer, but then we are basically converting this to be U64, okay? If we print this, I'm gonna say print, and we are passing this, you can see that I am not appending the reference. We are already declaring this a reference type in the variable itself. Print, it's going to expect a reference to be passed. But in this case, because we are defining the reference on the variable, I don't have to apply that reference to the variable, okay? Now, what we are doing, we're doing a quick test. So let's do this, test, and we are saying function, test, function, boom, right? And let's just call it scenario 1, boom, done, okay? Now, with that said, let's go ahead and test. Say APTOS move test and see if we run into any errors. Beautiful, no errors. And we can see that we have displayed 10, the value that we declare. Non-reference type, we changed that to be U64, reference U64, and we print it out. Awesome. Now let's do the second scenario. And by the way, I'm going to label this to be scenario 1, which is a non-ref type to immutable ref, okay? Now let's do another scenario. This scenario right here, we are going to update a mutable reference to immutable, okay? That being said, I'm going to say mutable to immutable, okay? Let's call this scenario number 2. Scroll up, and we are still leaving the non-reference type, but now what I'm going to do, I'm going to convert this to mutable. So I'm going to pass it to be a mutable reference. And what I have to do right before the type, I am going to type mute. That basically makes a mutable reference. I am now going to pass this value a as mutable as well. Why? Because I need to make sure that the value that I'm passing, it's type immutable U64, okay? After I do that, let's say if I can print that value in scenario number 2, I am going to comment this one out. I'm going to say scenario, and we will define this to be 2, and boom. Now let me test once again, boom, and we got the output. It's perfect. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to convert this to be immutable. So we are saying immutable reference. What I have to do, I am going to define this to be immutable. Remember, we're not passing mute, so we're just passing U64, right? And now you can see that I can update an immutable reference using a mutable reference. I cannot do the opposite. I cannot update a mutable reference with an immutable one. I cannot do that. So I'm going to say now mute ref. So we are passing this value, which is mutated, into this immutable reference, and that should do it. And I'm going to say immutable here. Beautiful. Try it out. And that works as well. Awesome. Right? Let's continue. I am going to do one last function. This function, I am going to pass mutable and immutable, okay? What I want to work with is mutating a variable. Check this out. I'm going to say scenario number 3, right? Function and we are going to reassign values, which means what? I can declare a variable with a value, and I can grab that variable and mutate the variable to change its value. Check this out. So I can say reassign, and I'm going to say right here, we are passing value A, right? And this will be value A as mutate U64, okay? We are going to pass a value that is defined as mutable reference, and we are also going to pass a value that is immutable, okay? So we say this U64, okay? Now, once I do that, I am going to pass value A, and we are going to mutate the state of that variable with value B. It's very similar to what we did on scenario number 2, but I want to show you another method that we can use, and is a very common to mutate. What we do with mutate, in order for us to mutate, it's just to add an asterisk and define value A, asterisk, value B, okay? So we are dereferencing, and that is the term. When we do this, we are dereferencing this variable. We are basically stripping the reference type to that variable, and then we can update that with another value, okay? So we can do that as well. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take the opportunity to print that output, okay? Which will be value A. And once again, remember, we are defining this to be reference mutable U64, which means that this does not need to have the reference attached to it. I don't need to pass the reference because it's already passed. Okay, so we are saving this. Now we are going to do a function that is just going to pass values to reassign, and we should obtain the output. Okay, we should obtain the original value, and then we will just update that value with another value. Okay, so let's say function, and we will say scenario 3. Okay, and now we are going to define, remember, we have to pass the same reference type, which is mutable 64. So I am going to say value A. Now we are defining this to be mutable U64, and this will be equals to 10. But it is expecting its value to also be mutable. Remember what I did here. I pass this value 10 as mutable as well, because it needs to match the type, the reference type, okay? I got to say the following here. All I'm going to say is this and 10. It's this mute and 10. I can do that as well. I can say reference mutated, mutable, and 10, okay? Now what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna say let value be, okay? So we are saying value be, and we are going to pass this to not be mutable because the arguments in the reassign function is expecting an immutable argument, okay? So I'm going to say this U64 without mutable, and we're also going to reference, in this case, 20. So what I wanna do is I want to replace value 10 out of A with value 20 from B as immutable. Very cool, okay? So now let's invoke the function. I'm gonna say reassign, and we pass the 2 arguments. We pass value A, and we pass value B. Beautiful, okay? And if everything goes well, we should be able to test and see how that goes. Let me go and do this, and cross fingers. There you go, we obtained 20. So what basically happened was we passed the mutable value A, value of 10, by dereferencing it with the asterisk. I was able to replace its value by dereferencing value B. So basically it does not have any reference at all. So it allows me to update this value and pass this value along, and I can grab that value and use it on any other function. Alrighty, we have finished video number 2. On video number 3, we are going to take a look at maps in Move. Let's do this.